Yeah, my name is Mariam Shabazz. I don't remember the year that I met Mr. Alexander, but I know it had to be somewhere in the 60s. And I really, when I really didn't meet him, I happened to go in his shop because during the time that he was here and he had the newspaper, he printed our items, our literature in his paper, the Muslim. And so that's how, by me going down, continue to go down to take or to view our writings that he had put in there, then I got acquainted with him and his wife. And so I would go down and have conversation with him, but she had wanted, I guess she was impressed with me because I was impressed with her, because she was quite a young lady, very outspoken, very well educated in her field. So I told her, I said, well, I can't come work, I'm not coming to work for you because I have my own print shop myself. She said, you have a print shop? I said, yes, ma'am. I said, this young man standing here, I know him. He wants to become a printer, I'm sure. And one of the young men that I know that is in printing was Mr. Allen. And so, but during the time I got open, it was only 4 black women that own and operate their business. So you see, that's why I myself wouldn't want to come and, and work, but I would love to come as often as I can. So she said, yes, that's fine, So anyway, I don't know. I think when Malcolm came to California and went to visit the paper, Herald Dispatch, he took the writings from them and he organized our own paper and called it Muhammad Speak, Mr. Muhammad Speak. So I don't know at what time that I, stopped coming to the shop, but I had not, I hadn't seen them in a long time until I met his daughter. Then we got to talking about him and all of that. So it was really nice, So, but I would like to say I was happy that I met both of them. I think they was wonderful people. I think it was very good that they were able to print news in the paper to share with the community, because at that time we didn't really have, per se, as I know, a black newspaper. So it was just wonderful to have met both of them, and I thank you.
Say, from your own heart and your own thoughts, some words about meeting Mr. Alexander and how he may have influenced your life in Africa.
Thank all of you for being here. I have happened to be the president of Ghana Association back in the 70s. But I had known Mr. Alexander Paper for quite some time because it was one of the most powerful and influential papers in LA as far as black people were concerned. Yes, the Sentinel was there, but you often had all these elegant parties, weekends, and flashy, people were, which was not really, it didn't express, I'm not saying that it didn't help, but it did not really elevate our people to the extent. But Mr. Alexander's paper was very, always try to point out the most basic things about black people. And I was very surprised when Houe finally, excuse my voice because I have a little bad voice. When Houe expressed the fact that we went through some papers and he was showing me a lot of the papers. I also have some of these. I kept some of the old papers. It's just, I hope maybe in our next anniversary, I'll try to dig it out. But Mr. Alexander was a very bold, you know, at those days, very few black people dare speak up. And he didn't care. I mean, he wrote what he felt he should read about black people. One of the interesting experiences I had was during, I think it was 1975. We had an ambassador from Ghana called Ambassador Kwam. I was the president of the association. We actually was the, you know, well, more younger people, you know, I look old now, but, you know, at that time I was young. Anyway, so I didn't know exactly how, we've had many ambassadors come and we've had our own little stuff around. But when I called Mr. Alexander's office, I mean, the reception was unbelievable. You know, I mean, he had the ambassador at his house in Baldwin Hills. I couldn't even go to all the events because I was so busy trying to track down what was going on that day. And then there was a club, a tall building, almost about 9th floor. I don't know, those of you who have been in LA, called Club 9000. I don't know whether it's still there on Sunset Boulevard. He helped us rent the whole flat. I just was, I mean, blown away. And we had one of the best event for any African ambassador. I mean, and the next day, he just opened up his paper, front page, Brothers from Africa. You know? So I happened to be riding with him one day. At the time, he was getting a little older. And, you know, as you know, when we get old, we're not the same as we used to be. But he has the feisty in him to see black people wake up. And he told me, he said, you know, all these people drinking and smoking and doing drugs, when the time comes, I will make them stop all of it. And that's Mr. Alexander. He meant it from his heart. He meant it from his heart. Like I said, yeah, you know, the issues I didn't know, but through the paper I found out, in fact, he had a connection with Malcolm X and so many other African American leaders at the time. So I'm sure that my brother have said enough, the sister have said enough about this man, and you know, I'm just putting in a little, you know, dent in what I know about the man. I didn't stay with him too long, like both of them did, but he impressed me a lot. You know, the same way my brother here, look at this house being open for us today. Tell me how many black folks in town will do that. And this is what we need. I also want to congratulate Mr. Von Wolfo. I want to say this because this man came all the way from San Diego. I remember when I first came to the United States, we were young, very naive, should I say? And I used to be with many of our brothers, you know, and I knew oftentimes we wanted to get ourselves into, for some reasons we always work ourselves into getting into a lot more trouble. Not that we intended to, but the things we used to say and the people we moved it with, who unfortunately were not aware of the system. Like when J. Edgar Hoover wanted to, you know, destroy the movement and all that. So I remember Mr. Von Wolfo very well. And I'm glad that you are here today for Mr. Alexander, because it shows your interest after all those years is still there. I also thank my sister here, and I thank everybody here. But let me say this before to conclude. We here have a lot of work to do. Oftentimes we talk too much as black people and we don't deliver. Now, some talk, mean well, but you know, it's like we have a proverb in Akan language. It says, when you are standing where there's ants, you know the fire ant, they bite like crazy. Yes. And if you are standing where a fire ant is, you know, I mean, it's like you cannot organize yourself. I mean, because they're getting all over you, biting you and all that. And I understand what our people here and our people back home go through all the time. So a lot of it, it's not easy for us. But I'm glad that there are people like Mr. Alexander and those of all of you who are here today to honor this man. Thank you.
Brother Akil, I think, are you older than me or am I older than you?
I'm older than you.
So you should go first, my brother.
I'm old as the hill. Good evening. To those who are older than me, do I have your permission to speak?
Yes.
Thank you. I met Mr. Sanford Alexander while a student at UCLA. And between collecting cans and delivering papers for the Herald Dispatch newspaper, I would sit and I would talk to him from time to time, and I would ask him questions and offer suggestions about improving his circulation. He was open to my suggestions, but there was something that stood out about him to me. Number one, he was a man that was sure of himself. He did not, he wasn't hesitating as to what he could do. And I say this because, number one, he was a successful businessman. Mm-hmm. He had a newspaper. He could express himself beyond just his immediate circle. Some people may have said, well, the Herald Dispatch wasn't this, the Herald Dispatch wasn't that, but the Herald Dispatch was. It was a newspaper. It was his newspaper. It was the way that he reached out to the world at that time. It was the equivalent of a good web page in today's world. He had his own web page. He had his own family of newspapers. He reached throughout Central Los Angeles and in other communities, in Compton, in Watts. He had a impact, not just here, but nationally, because number one, he offered, I'm sure someone may have said this before I came, he offered an outlet to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. In fact, it was his offering the Herald Dispatch as a vehicle of expression for the Nation of Islam that Muhammad Speaks newspaper came into existence. So the Herald Dispatch, through Mr. Sanford Alexander and through his wife, Pat Alexander, it was quite instrumental in stating and establishing black thought in Los Angeles and throughout the country at that time. And I think it's an old adage from the ancestors that says that when you honor someone and you call their name, they're no longer dead. You're calling them in your presence. You're grabbing them out of the ether and you're bringing them into your presence right here and now. So we say right this moment, bring Sanford Alexander and his energy and his thought process right here to join with us as we honor him on his solar return. Thank you.